You're watching In the Office. My name is Bray. Let's do some quote learning. Today for episode number 38, I've entitled this, You Don't Mind Offending. Well, it's interesting, isn't it? The plight of human life is such that we don't mind offending other people, but blessed be if we ourselves tend to stumble into being offended. For the majority of my life, I have lived in a household with far more children than I lived without. As a matter of fact, in my entire life, there has only been about 3 years where I wasn't in a situation where there was more children than there were adults. What that taught me early on was that you have to have thick skin. You have to be willing to risk being offended. And you have to be able to dance and do the dance and jab with other people to toughen and sharpen your skill set of being able to defend yourself adequately. There are many times in life where I wished and ponder back on situations where I wished I would have said something different. And I bet you identify with that. I bet there were times in your life where after having some mild confrontation or serious one, that you had time to think and you're replaying what they said, and then you're like, well, I should have said this there, and that would have been an on, or I'd have got them. But life doesn't allow you for those replays. Life doesn't allow you to, hit the rewind button and get a second shot at that first impression. That leads me to one of my favorite interviews that has probably taken place ever on a TV channel, and that was one with Jordan Peterson and Kathy Newman. And why I like it so much is because of the idea talking about being offended versus doing the offending. I think many times we do not realize that to enjoy life, you have to risk being offended. I guess I was about 15 years old when this first lawsuit came out from Six Flags. They were being sued because someone weighed too much to fit into a roller coaster, and they called it fat phobic before they called it fat phobic. They had a different phrase for that, but basically that they were fat phobic for not putting this person on this ride and not building seats large enough to accommodate them. Everything played out, and Six Flags ultimately had to put forth a statement on the matter. And their statement was along the lines that we're doing everything we can to keep as many people safe as possible and offer an enjoyable experience to our customers. They said that, and they offended the world. The world was in flames. We're boycotting Six Flags. They don't care about large people. La 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 la. You know what? They're still there and they're still doing fine. The people that were genuinely offended should have been more offended at their insensibilities to read the signs. If I go to any circumstance where my physical person is a factor and there are signs telling me that the hike is treacherous or that the grade is steep, I need to consider my person. I'm not going to take a hike that's more than about 8 miles. I don't want to go down steep and treacherous terrain if I'm wearing some loafers. I have to consider myself in the way that I'm accommodated for that matter, and I don't mind somebody offending me in that regard. I know you're about to go hike this, but man, those shoes you're wearing, that's probably not a good idea. You may be right. Yeah, you ruined my plans for today, but at least I didn't turn my ankle and have to have a crew come in and drag me and my family out. So I don't mind being offended, and I think you shouldn't mind being offended. We should be able to take one on the chin. Jesus even talks about being able to turn the other cheek, and sometimes we do need to be able to turn the other cheek. That being said, the interview, which I'm going to show you a clip of in just a second, the breakdown was 2 sentences, and those 2 sentences were, in my mind, the highlight of the interview, where Newman says this: "Okay," to Jordan, "you've cited freedom of speech in that. Why should your right to freedom of speech trump a trans person's right to not be offended?" Peterson: "Because in order to be able to think, you have to risk being offensive." Look at the conversation we're having right now. You're certainly willing to risk offending me in the pursuit of truth. Why should you have the right to do that? It's been rather uncomfortable. And I thought, man, you nailed it. Life is not as picturesque as we want to paint it. And not everything is super scripted. Some things in life just happen, and we have to be able to live in that moment and make the best of that situation. When it comes to being offended, don't be hypersensitive. The culture around me offends me every single day. Every single day. There's not something that I'm not offended by every single day. But if I allow that to dominate my mentality, then I'm going to be a sad person. And I don't want that. Not for me, not for my family, not for my church. Anybody that comes in contact with me, I want them to have a general optimism when they leave our conversation, if it's possible. And sometimes I'll be the one doing the offending. And the reason that I don't mind doing that when I have to sometimes, and sparingly I might add, is because I allow other people to offend me. And you can have an open door policy here. And you can come in and talk to me. And if what I've said is something that bothers you, you're able to address it. And I'm not a threatening person. And I will have compassion and I will hear you out. And then we will leave on amicable terms. We may not agree when it's all said and done, but that's what I want you to be willing to do in your personal life. If you want to. I ain't forcing anybody to do what they don't want to. But we certainly don't mind offending other people. That's clear. We'll have disagreements with our spouse, our kids, and we'll quip off and we'll throw darts and we'll stab people. We don't mind offending other people. When the shoe's on the other foot, can you take some offense? I think you should be able to allow people to say things to you sometimes that hurt without it causing you to double the pain back. Sometimes it's constructive criticism and we're just not in a frame of mind to receive it as such. Some of the things that hurt me the most, the 24 hours, a week after it, I sulked and I stewed, but then after months or even years, I come to a place and I'm like, wow, what they said was right. I think what Jordan said to Kathy was right too. Take a listen to this clip.
You cited freedom of speech in that. Why should your right to freedom of speech trump a trans person's right not to be offended?
Because in order to be able to think, you have to risk being offensive. I mean, look at the conversation we're having right now. Like you're certainly willing to risk offending me in the pursuit of truth. Why should you have the right to do that? It's been rather uncomfortable.
You're certainly willing to risk offending me in the pursuit of truth. Why should you have the right to do that? Because it's aforementioned point. If you're going to get the truth, sometimes we have to risk being offensive. He had one more little line in here that I really enjoyed. Here it is.
You haven't sat there and I'm just trying to work that out. I mean,
gotcha.
You have got me.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed today. Think about who you're letting offend you. Are these people that have legitimate concerns? Are they trying to help you or are they just trying to tear you down? You need to make that determination. And if it's someone that really wants to help you, let them help you. If you've decided that these are not people that are willing to help you, then dismiss it, discard it, turn the other cheek. Those are my thoughts. I hope this helped. We'll see you next time.